Sometimes a story doesn't arrive with a headline or a name. Sometimes it drifts in quietly, like petals washed up on a shoreline, right against the sand, carrying the weight of something unspoken. You're standing there, listening to the waves drag themselves in and out, and suddenly you hold the weight of someone who once stood in that same place, looking at the same horizon, carrying fears that they never said out loud. There's a heaviness in the air that doesn't ask for permission. It just settles in your chest, reminding you that some stories echo louder than any sound. And in that moment, you realise the stories that stay with us aren't the ones we chase. They are the ones that find us. They drift up when we least expect it, and then they hang on. Welcome to If These Trees Could Talk.
Today we begin by acknowledging the first peoples of the lands, waters and skies that hold the stories we explore across this vast country, from coastlines shaped by tides older than memory, to the river systems that have carried songs for thousands of generations, to the mountains and deserts that stand as living archives. We honour the traditional custodians who have always and continue to care for these places. Their knowledge, their storytelling and their deep connection to country continue to guide the spirit of this land. We pay our respects to elders past and present and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander listeners joining us today. We recognise the Wonnarua people on whose land we are recording. This land has always been a place of learning, culture and gathering, and as we share the stories we tell, we commit to listening with humility, walking gently and acknowledging the enduring strength and wisdom of the world's oldest storytellers. The world needs to hear this.
Do people think I have written this with no concern for the victim or the families of victims? That was a huge emotional cost.
The secret to having it all is realising you already do.
It is Christmas. This is our last episode for 2025, the end of season 2 of If These Trees Could Talk. And I am tired. Where are you sitting?
Yeah, I think back to the beginning of this year where I told you my word of the year was simplify and I have a little giggle. I'm exhausted too.
So I was going to ask you about that because your word was simplify and mine was observe. How did you go?
I think there are situations that are simplified. I do think that I've done a good job, but with most of my goals, I get to the end of that period and go, yeah, I've improved, but I'll never, ever be able to say that I have achieved it because I guess the more you know about or experience a specific thing, the more you realise you know nothing. So I guess, yes, not today though. Maybe tomorrow will be simple. You?
I have observed a lot of things this year. Today, I observe I am tired. I have been making that observation for a couple of weeks now, and that's okay. I'm tired because I get to do amazing things that I love and contribute to things that mean a lot to me. I have had some success. I think my biggest part of observing has been probably observing my own reactions to things and making a choice on if there is a value for me to weigh in on that or not. The fireball Shannon the one that lives inside the cage and rattles it and wants to come out and cause a ruckus, has been more settled this year, I think, than possibly any time in the last 10 years.
Well done.
Yeah, so I'm taking that as a win. I still have some failures where she has popped out. But the other part of that was even observing when that happened and what the barriers were and why I didn't do as well in those situations. We'll talk a little bit about this in a second when we talk about our highlights and the things that we've struggled with during this year.
I love that you have had time to construct this and you're just throwing it to me now. Thanks.
Well, no, I haven't. I've just put a bit of an outline together, and then I thought I didn't want to research or come in here with like, this is the thing I'm going to say and you have to go in blind. So I haven't really thought about what I'm going to say. I've just done a little blah, blah, blah,
Sure.
and we'll say, you can have a look. It's here on the computer. Although when I did run it through AI to construct my things better, it actually provided some suggested script options, and I am very concerned at how well it knows us.
Okay. Have you got the script there?
There was one part where I talk about an experience that I have on a beach and how it led me to a story, and that's going to be the crux of today's episode. But the response, the suggested response from you was, only you could turn a beach holiday into a missing persons investigation. And I was like, does this AI bot live in our
very
houses?
Scary. Yeah, very scary.
What's your highlight of all the places that you have been this year?
Japan and home.
Yeah. What was the best part, like the absolute highlight of that trip?
I'm going to stretch it into two things but make it one theme, and it was that in the same 2-week period, I snowboarded and went snorkeling.
Oh, that's pretty great.
Incredible. Both experiences were very, very incredible.
Have you snorkeled a lot before?
Little bit, but the kids hadn't, and watching their reaction was my absolute hearing it. I had to keep putting my head under after a while because I wanted to experience it in silence, and the kids were like, whoa, look at that one!
That's the best part of snorkeling, is just the only noise is bubbles. I really love that.
I love being underwater sometimes.
Me too. Especially when you have young, excitable boys around you. We snorkeled at the Rex at Moreton Island, and I would have to say that's one of my highlights for this year. I'm not a great snorkeler. Did we talk about this in the Lord Howe episode, like about me practicing in the bath?
We did.
Well, I just popped my snorkel on and I just swimmed right out into the deep water like a really big girl and had the most fabulous time.
Like exposure therapy, you're all over it now.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I just don't think I'm ever going to have snorkeling anxiety again. And it's not about the snorkeling, it's about the breathing, like because you can hear your breath and you concentrate so much on your breathing. That was a pretty great highlight for me. We got there really early in the morning, so there was no one around because the Rex at Moreton, and we haven't even really discussed this trip that I've just done, but there'll be some stories that come out of it probably for early next year. Where the Rex are is where the boat, the Cat, comes in to drop people off, and it's right next to the resort. So it's usually quite a bustling area. But we went up early in the morning.
What's the Rex?
The Rex is shipwrecks.
Like REX. Every time you were saying Rex, I thought you were like this was some sort of like you're saying it like I'm supposed to know what you're talking about. WRECKS.
Rex.
Shipwrecks.
Yes.
Got it. Start again now so it all makes sense?
Well, it's called the Rex.
Okay.
So
WRECKS.
you're not editing that bit out. I really like that.
Oh, we'll see.
No. This episode is meant to be unfiltered. Let's let the listeners see what kind of unhinged madness actually goes on here in every week.
Well, I'm too tired to edit, so Here it is.
So, yes, the wrecks, which is a group of shipwrecks that were purposely sunk there to make an anchorage so boats could come in and they weren't in the swells. So it's an artificial reef. They've been there for quite a period of time and there's all coral and stuff growing on them and it's just where all the cool fish hang out. So that was great. Love that. Highlight. I also got to paddleboard with a dugong. That was a pretty big highlight. I did put it on our socials because I was supposed to put an episode, hey, we've got an episode out today, and I didn't do it. So I just showed you footage of me paddleboarding with a dugong instead.
Poor you.
I didn't do my homework. What about your Australian adventures?
I just love being at home, hey.
Yeah.
I love where I live. I love those rare moments where you can just immerse yourself in your surroundings and you've commented on all of the incredible animals that you've seen. And there's just more and more every day. I think actually it's quite a sad story. We've got development happening, which I think is scaring them towards us. So there's just, those peasant things I was telling you about?
Yeah.
Saw 3 this morning.
Pheasants.
I'm editing that bit.
No, you're not. The pheasants, yes. I still haven't seen one of
Put
those.
that into the world.
You can.
You know those pheasant things?
Those peasant things.
Stop it.
What, just really
Let
poor
me
people with
redo it. I'm
aprons
going
on?
to redo it. Stop. You know those pheasant things we talked about before?
Yes.
I saw 3 of those this morning.
Megan's just got small, poor people roaming around a property.
Do you know what? The other 2 words that I cannot figure out in my head, every time I go to say it, I'll think of a different word because I'm not sure. I know one's a plant and one's fruit trees, orchard and orchid, and I never know which one goes where. Peasant and pheasant's the same.
Okay, it works.
They weren't poor people. They were birds.
So home is the highlight.
Yeah.
But you travel a lot.
I've done lots of Australia.
I know, and so I can understand why when you spend so much time away from home for really important reasons that it's nice to just come back and be in your own little nest.
I think that the secret to having it all is realising you already do.
Yeah.
Well, now you've talked about travel. I was thinking about family holidays, but for work I do get to see some really beautiful parts of Australia that aren't necessarily high on the tourist lists.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing that platypus was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Lyrebirds.
Yes.
So I think our 2 big ones was Queensland with Moreton Island and then Tassie. I've talked a lot about the highlights of Tassie.
So much that
Megan is going to Tasmania next year.
I am. It is booked. My travel agent / husband is doing all of the I think we've spoken about this before. I'm very lucky to be the person who says, what time do you need me ready? And just get in the car and he does all the thinking and
Everybody needs a
everything.
Scot.
Oh, God, the Scots
It's a Scot trait.
It's so good. I don't think my Scot likes doing it so much, but I think he thinks he does it better than me. And he does. He does do it better than me.
My Scot emails me spreadsheets.
I've seen your spreadsheets.
So I'm not going in blind, which is great because it alleviates my anxiety, but I just am so confident that he's all over it.
The one time my Scot sent the girls rogue in Japan, he did everything. Obviously, it's tricky in a non-English speaking country, but the girls went to a sushi workshop, the boys went to a ninja workshop, and he told me everything, like what platform I need to be on and what time the train was coming, and it was all too hard that I just got an Uber. I just couldn't do it. It was all too hard. I do need him.
There is so much logistical planning that goes into travelling. It doesn't matter whether it's domestic or international, probably a lot more for international travel. But yeah, get a Scot, that's all I can say. I thought today, just because we're wrapping things up, that I would talk a little bit about some of the processes that are involved in making this work and this come together? Because, like, we're just two people who have no idea how to be podcasters and threw ourselves into this and have learnt quite a bit along the way, have learnt a lot of stuff about the things that we don't know about and how to make it work and how to work together and all of those things. So I thought that might be a little bit of a interesting behind the scenes part. But before we go into that.
Are you going to talk about BTS?
BTS behind the scenes? I can tell people. So I sent Megan a message and I'm like, this week's just really loose. We're just going to have a conversation, bit of BTS talk. And so Megan Googled BTS and it come back with something from K-pop Demon Hunters.
That's not what we're talking about today. We're doing behind the scenes. I'm so uncool.
Well, all I know about is what I've heard about other people talk. I haven't watched it.
I'm going to redeem myself here.
6, 7. So when we're talking about processes and the things that we do, like Megan does a whole heap of behind the scenes work and I just go on really nice holidays and stories find me. So I thought that I'd share a little bit about how that happens. And there's a specific instance, and I'm not going to give you the whole rundown of the story because a really great podcaster has already done it, but I'll give you a little blip into it. So recently on our trip to Queensland, our first stop was Lennox Head, and we camped at a campground that's like right between Lake Ainsworth and the beach. So the beach is like east and Lake Ainsworth is like literally right behind it. I think there's like a little walking path between the two. Incredibly beautiful spot. Loved it. When we arrived, we got a massive storm and it rained all night. And when we got up the next morning, there was just like a little bit of sunshine, but it was saying it's going to pour again during the day. So I woke Charlie up and I was like, do you want to come down the beach and watch the sunrise? And he's like, yeah, okay, we'll do that. So we jumped up and put our jumpers on because it was like freezing and took off down the beach, watched the sunrise, and then we decided we'd walk along the beach into town, maybe get a coffee. As we're walking along the beach, there's all of these sunflowers that the tide had washed up onto the beach. And Charlie's like, this is so beautiful. And I was taking some photos of them just because there was this moody, stormy background and it was early in the morning. And I started thinking about like why they would be there. And I was thinking, oh, someone's probably passed away. There's probably some sort of memorial or something that's happened. And I said to Charlie, while it is really, really beautiful, there's probably a sad meaning behind it. And I don't know what the meaning behind those flowers were, but because it was Lennox, I started thinking, and it reminded me of the story of Bronwyn Winfield, which is something that I loosely knew because I lived in Ballina not long after she went missing, and there was still some stuff in the papers and that around the time. I think there might have been an inquest into her disappearance or death, and I might have seen it in the newspaper. So I had a loose understanding of her disappearance. And then just standing on the beach that day, those flowers made me think of that lady. And I was thinking, like, she lived here. This was her home. She probably stood on this beach and no one knows what happened to her.
Only you could turn a beach holiday into a murder investigation, Shannon.
I tell these stories not because I'm like into gruesome murders or you know, true crime or gory stuff. It's the humanistic aspect that gets me. And so standing on that beach and just having that feeling of maybe she stood here too, you know, and it's the same with, you know, talking about Aboriginal massacres and stuff like that. Like the land holds the feelings of things, and that's the stuff that gets me. So anyway, we camped there. We were like right on the shores of Lake Ainsworth, and it was just beautiful. We had the best time and went on the rest of our holiday. But when I come home and I'm thinking about what stories am I going to tell on the pod from this trip. And then Bronwyn's story is like ticking over in my head. Now, Hedley Thomas has done a deep dive podcast into Bronwyn's disappearance. So I'm not going to, like, no one can compete with Hedley. Like, he's the master of this is the word, investigative journalism. That's the word I can't say. You can't say pheasant. I can't say investigative. Now you have to put it in. I'm just going to give you a little brief rundown. And while we're off on holidays over Christmas, if you need something to put in your ears, go and listen to Hedley because he does have a lovely voice, a really, really lovely voice. So Bronwyn vanished from Lennox Head on the 16th of June, 1993. She was 31 years old and she had 2 children. And her partner, John, had recently separated. Bronwyn had moved into a little flat, still in Lennox, with the 2 girls. And John stayed in the family home, and he had some really strong ties to this home because he'd built it himself. He was also pretty certain that he didn't want to lose it in a separation. He was a builder or a bricklayer and headed back to Sydney. So the family home was sitting there empty, and Bronwyn, on her wage, she worked at a local takeaway in Lennox, was really struggling to make ends meet with paying rent and taking care of the 2 girls. And she had been to see a lawyer, and the lawyer advised her that that is your home and you have every right to live there, especially if he's vacated it. So Bronwyn took the kids, packed up the little flat and moved back into the family home. When John found out, he jumped on a plane from Sydney to Ballina and then showed up at the house. And his version of events is that when he got back to the house, he went in, they had a conversation together, and she said, oh, look, I need to take a break for a few days, and made a phone call and got in a car with somebody who he didn't know and just drove off, and she's never been seen again. So there's some problems with that. First of all, she was trying to move back into the family home because under the lawyer's advice about, you know, she had more chance of getting something for her and the girls if she was living in the house. The meetings that she'd had with her lawyer were around her main goal being just retaining custody of the 2 girls. So it is extremely out of character for her to just go, oh, look, you're back. I'm going to go on a holiday for a few days. But because that was the evidence that was put forward when John was the person who reported her missing quite a few weeks after she left, so he'd kind of created this narrative with people and said, oh, she's just gone off, she needs a break. And there were people around who found that was not in her character. Every person in the podcast who knew Bronwyn says she would have never left her girls, like under any circumstance. But John explained it to some male detectives and said, oh, you know, she needed a break and she's probably run off and she's could be living in a cult somewhere or she's hooked up with another bloke. And the male detectives were like, oh, yeah, that could have happened. And there was no forensic testing done. Police investigation was pretty lax. So it wasn't until quite a few years later that another police officer came in and went, this doesn't sit right with me. And he did a further investigation into it. So if you're interested in listening to the full version of this, not my just super quick breakdown of it, go and listen to, it's just called Bronwyn. It's a podcast by The Australian presented by Hedley Thomas and his team. It's exceptional. But the other part of that is during that podcast, there is a theory that's put forward that John disposed of her body in Lake Ainsworth. We were literally camped on the shores of that lake, and to come home and this sticks with me, like we could have been there, you know, we could have been paddleboarding. There are so many of these things, and I think especially because we had the Catherine Knight episodes going in the background at the same time, so domestic violence was sort of on my mind. There are so many well, there's probably not places that most of us go that don't carry some sort of story of someone. So that's kind of a little bit how my process works. I'll be in a place, a thing will happen, it'll remind me of a thing, I come home and that's the thing that grabs me. And Bronwyn's story has really grabbed me, and I've done a huge amount of research into it, but I'm not going to try and compete with Hedley. I'm just going to send you to him because he is exceptional. It is fascinating. There is a huge amount of listening there. So if you're interested, just jump over to that. There is an emotional cost to this stuff, not just to Megan when I come in here, and we joke all the time about how I just terrorise her once a fortnight with some really unhinged story that she doesn't want to hear. But there is an emotional cost to researching and writing, and it does have a big impact on us.
I would say most recently to sifting through social media comments as well. There was an emotional cost involved in that.
That was a huge emotional cost.
I think if I was a famous person, there's no way I would be even opening a social media app. I wouldn't cope.
Most of our posts get 10 likes, and we might get a couple of comments.
Thank you, Kate.
We love Kate. But then you just have this one thing. So the first one that blew up was your story about Peter Warner on TikTok. I just put a few little pictures together and threw it up with Megan's voice going over the top on TikTok. How many views has that had?
I deleted that app. You'll have to have a quick look. That's not for me.
So this random story that you were worried, you literally started that episode off saying, I'm so nervous. What if nobody likes this story? What if everybody knows it? What if nobody's interested in it? 55.9 thousand views. And the rest of them have got 200, 300 views. But that one story that Megan did.
Why?
I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense.
I can't figure out the algorithm. But that was great. I love that blew up. That was so good. Then this week, I just put up a random post about the Catherine Knight thing, and I don't know why the algorithm picked that one up because I'd done previous ones, and people went mad.
They did.
And for us, we're people behind that page, and the comments start to come in and you go, oh, okay, this is resonating with people. And then the agenda of other people start coming in and you're like, oh, this is moving a little bit away from the messaging that we were intending in this episode.
Can I play something that you sent me during the week that related to this?
I'm not quite sure why I'm here or what I'm doing, but there's a reason.
Ma'am, we're discussing the rezoning for the Portillos. Do you have any comments on that?
For what?
We're discussing the rezoning on 53rd for,
Well, I live on 63rd.
again, we're here to hear comments about the rezoning.
Well, I don't like Facebook, and I don't like the internet because I can't find a job. The library blocked my password. Now tell me, does that make any sense to you?
I don't want to make comments about our new followers.
We love you all.
There was a level of frustration there. The thing I couldn't understand was there was all of these people saying, why are you bringing this up again? Why are you doing this? This isn't the truth. You're not telling the full story. And at the same time that they're yelling at us, they're following our page. And I'm like, if you hate what we're doing, why do you want to be part of this community? But anyway, the internet is a wild place.
I don't like Facebook. I don't like the internet. The library blocked my password. Does that make any sense to you?
There was a couple of comments in there that I thought might have been written by that lady. And I can laugh about it now, but Megan actually sent me a message saying, this is giving me anxiety. And
I do not like it.
No. And I'm watching not just the comments, but I'm watching the people who are taking our content and then sharing it on their own pages. And a lot of the stuff that was shared was around gendered domestic violence and men sharing it saying, see, it's not men who just commit domestic violence. And while that is true, and I 100% agree with that, I'm doing a story about a man who died in a domestic violence situation. I'm not saying only women die, but if you look at the statistics, there is a vast difference between the amount of men and women who die in domestic violence situations. What I was really struggling with was that people were taking the message that we were trying to put out there, and it was about the horrificness, and it was about early intervention, and it was about all of those things, not in a gendered sense. It wasn't because Catherine was a woman, and we did talk about it flipping the narrative on its head, but that was it.
I'm guessing most of those people haven't listened to the podcast, so they don't really know what the whole story behind that post anyway, or what your full attitude is towards that situation.
Yeah, so I really had to sit in that and wrestle with, how do I manage this? Then I just decided I'm going to let the internet. I've been known to write a pretty fierce response on challenging Facebook post. And I did have an urge on quite a lot of the comments to really go in there with like pitchforks and daggers.
But then you observed your reaction.
I did.
Look at you.
I did. And I got to decide who I wanted to be in that moment. So, look, the only reason we have social media is because it helps us promote. And in that same week that all of that happened, we got a beautiful message from the lady at Lemon Tree Passage who, because the algorithm had obviously put that out and so many people had shared it and we had so many likes and so many comments, the lady from the cafe at Lemon Tree.
No way.
Yeah, messaged, and she's like, oh my God, this just popped up in my newsfeed. I'm so glad I've found you. I've been looking for you.
Oh.
So you get that stuff too. And this is just a little blip on the radar of what has been a massive year. It's probably that this has just been the first challenging time where I've been like, number one, do people think I'm an asshole? Do people think I have written this with no concern for the victim or the families of victims? That is never where my intention comes from. And I can guarantee you, if I did come in, like say if I was a bit unhinged and it moved from where our values sit, you would call me out on that 100%. You'd be like, you can't put that in there.
Oh, I don't tell you. I just cut it out later and hope you don't notice.
Yeah.
That's too much. We're not putting that in.
Megan is our ethical centre.
No, I'm just scared of pissing people off.
Me, a little bit less so. But it then dove into the whole reason that we're doing this. And for me, and it might sit differently for you with your values, but hard conversations are the things that promote change. Like us talking about those few people who messaged us and said, I signed the Clare's Law petition. Like we might have been 0.25% of the reason why that got 20,000 signatures. But I love that we were, you know, that tiny little portion.
It's the same with any feedback though. You will get 99 wonderful comments and then one that is constructive or worse.
Yeah.
And that's the one that you overthink forever.
I felt like I had a responsibility to moderate that comment section and without censoring it as well, because when people are saying things like, think of the families, I'm in support of that and that is what I'm doing. And I don't think anybody who listened to the episodes would have thought otherwise. It's the fact that people question your motivation and we try very hard to sit on the opposite side of being a grabby headline, attention-seeking type thing. That's not what we're doing here. Like I could just put out a heap of stuff that's going to generate that much interest on social media.
Women in bikinis. Did you take any photos of this beautiful beach holiday of
I do, but me laying on a beach ain't going to get views. Promise ya. So, you know, like that's what we could be doing and it's not what we're doing. So when people question that intention, it's and I'm going to put that as my low point in podcasting world for this year is that I really had to sit with my own values and go, hey, is this aligned with who I want to be and what we're putting out into the universe? So
I think you're very open to listening to other people's perspectives.
I'm super curious and I learned, like, I have no problem having a conversation with someone, especially if they disagree with my position, because that's where I learn. I learn so much about the why and the how and the thought processes around whatever their reasoning is and where it hits with their values. I love that stuff so much. I think it's just where people question mine.
Without understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's fine. If they'd been and listened to the episodes, like there was one lady who made a comment about the fact that if you're going to do an episode like this, at least get the information right in relation to the way that animals were slaughtered in the abattoir. Now, in our show notes, and I don't think a massive amount of people go to our website afterwards and have a look at the show notes, but there is sources there for every piece of information that I put into these stories. I don't just sit behind a computer and tap away and add my own narrative to it. The stories that we build come from books and media articles and research papers and court documents and police interviews. So am I always going to get it right? No, I'm not. But you can then trace back where I got it wrong and why I got it wrong. I don't just put it up and say, oh, this is the truth. Here's the sources for the information. And I list that on every single episode. So, yeah, I don't know. I didn't work in abattoirs at that time. I don't know exactly how they were killed. But if a police officer tells me that that's part of this story, then I'm going to kind of believe him. Anyway, it is what it is. We've done a whole section on why social media is shit. That wasn't the aim, but I was going to ask about high and low points. And I'm going to say that's my low, is that I feel like my values were questioned. But in that too, so many people wrote lovely stuff. And on the opposite end of that spectrum, then we have some of the episodes that we put out and people write to us and say, oh my God, like what you have said there has like changed my life, or I've gone back to therapy because I understand this thing better now and I'm able to move past this and I've seek professional help because of it. Like that is the best message I've ever received. And without going into too much detail, because we're talking about highs and lows, after doing my own lived experience of suicide story, which I don't think come out this year. We did the second one this year, but it was the first one. So it was at the end of...
Would have been October last year.
October last year. I got a message from a lady whose partner had committed suicide, and it would have been, I think at the time, 5 years ago. And she was so angry at him for doing that. And 100% I can understand. She felt alone and she couldn't let go of that anger. And after listening to us talk about it, she said for the first time, I can understand that he actually thought he was helping us instead of making life harder for us. And she said, I think I forgive him. And I've made a call and I'm going back to therapy to help me work through this part. And I just want to say thank you for having that conversation. That is the best message I have ever received. What's been your favourite part?
I recall when we were recording our last episode with Stuart O'Neill saying, this is my favourite episode.
Yes.
I haven't edited yet. I'm excited about going back and editing that and finding the parts that made me go, the world needs to hear this. So that was a high. But also, how many episodes what are we up to?
36.
This will be 36?
No, 37, 38.
This will be 38. That you did this. I'm so proud of you. 38 episodes ago, it was exactly 2 years ago, we sat down and I was wondering what I wanted to be when I grew up, and we played around with this coaching idea and asked you some questions, and you had this very rough dream, and now 2 years later you have put 38 episodes into the world.
Do you remember when I said, if we can make it to 10 episodes, I'll be really happy, because like 90% of podcasts fail before they get to their 10th episode.
Yep, we celebrated that. We celebrated 1,000 downloads.
Yep.
We celebrated a year.
Yep.
You then had a goal of likes on Facebook.
Yes.
And that, I mean, let's go back to the awful social media conversation that you just had. That helped with that very much. Yay, tick that off.
Yeah.
You're going to have to set some new goals for next year. I'm really, really proud of you.
Thank you. And I'm really proud of you too. And I was thinking about what we learn from each other as we do this. And I think the thing that you do for me is that you don't let me just get stagnant. Like, you're always saying to me, what's next? Where are you going next? What's the next goal? Because I'm not good at setting goals, because I'm so scared I'm going to fail. So I just don't set them. And if something good happens, I'm like, awesome. Megan doesn't let me to be that person anymore.
I'm a nag.
You're not a nag. You're an inspiring, motivating person.
Goals work for me, and that's probably why I suggest them for other people.
Yeah.
But I know that they don't work for everybody.
I'm just scared of failure, and if I set goals and I don't reach them, then it's just another reason for me to be hard on myself. So
I learned this great tip. I wish I could reference where I learned it. I can't remember. I think it was a Domestika course on creative coaching, and one of the activities was to get used to failing. So going out and doing things that you know you were going to fail at. For example, going to pay for your dinner and asking for 50% off. And they will say no, and you go, okay, I failed at that. And then getting used to that. And the task was 3 times this week you need to go and do something like that you know you're going to fail at, and sit in that and get used to it. I didn't do it.
no, I could never. I won't even use Marketplace, because I'm scared of, like, if someone said to me, oh, look, you've got that on for $100, but I can only afford $40, I'd be like, oh, okay, that's fine. You can have it. Like, I cannot do things like that. I could never go to Bali. The idea of bartering scares the absolute shit out of me.
So my low light,
Yeah.
I guess, is having to listen to some of these stories 3 or 4 times as I sit through them the first time and then edit them. And it's not that I don't think that you're an amazing storyteller and that the stories are not worth telling. I think that the world needs to hear these brutal truths, and I think what you're doing is really important, but it also makes it difficult to think about all of the people who are affected in some of the stories that you tell. I've told you before, I can sit in uncomfortable, and I don't want that to stop that. If you told me that I had to give a low light, it would probably be having to listen to these things more than once.
Yep. I knew that was going to be your answer.
And did ChatGPT know that was going to be my answer?
Did, because when I was putting the episode, what I often do is through the week I voice record stuff, and then it transcribes my voice recordings, and I put it into like AI and say, I want to make an episode about this, and then that's my basis, and then I edit out from there. So it doesn't give me the content. It just gives me like a little table that gives me an idea of, a structure to use. So I put my voice notes in this morning, and it had a section that was just called Megan's Grievance Corner. I think it's in here. Let me have a look.
Megan's Grievance Corner, a recurring joke segment where Megan lists things she endured this season, the weird field trip you dragged her on, the topic she absolutely hated researching, one moment she did quietly enjoy. There you go. I really did do that without looking at that.
How did it know? So that was like a whole new thing, a whole new paragraph. How
I
did
know.
it know that we had been on one?
Because everything's
Field trip.
connected. Even different AI tools are connected. Be careful what you type in there, but that's a story for another day.
Christmas is coming. When people listen to this, they are going to be tired. Let's give them something hopeful.
I feel like when we listen back to it, we were like, you weren't tired then. You're tired now. You weren't tired back then.
So, what's the thing you're most grateful for this year? Not podcast related, just in the whole of.
Gratitude is my thing, but to just pick one thing that I'm mostly grateful for. I'm grateful for my little bubble, my people in my home, being able to come home and escape from the difficult things that are happening in the world.
Yeah. For me, it would be, this popped into my mind when we were talking about like the yuck stuff of social media. The people that I've connected with through social media that I might not have connected with outside of the podcast. So them listening, learning a little bit about us. One person I'm thinking of in particular, Sal, she'll know who I'm talking about. The most beautiful, deepest, caring, incredible lady. And we have existed alongside each other through our whole lives. But if it wasn't for the podcast, I don't know if she would have reached out and said, hey, I love this thing. And I love the things like that she sends me and the stuff that we get to talk about. I'm really grateful for those relationships that I probably wouldn't have forged if it wasn't for this. That's pretty special, I think.
And there would be people who have similar passions and interests to you if they're listening to the podcast. So,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Growth. Where do you think you've grown most this year? What have you learnt from doing this podcast this year?
I need to ask ChatGPT that question. I don't have a response. You go first.
I think I've learnt to use a lot of tools that make my life easier. So we were just talking about AI. If I wasn't doing this stuff, I would have never learned how to use AI. I would, like, even today, we were doing some editing for a previous episode and I found a website that would transcribe our audio file using AI that puts in the timestamps and everything. That one thing made what would have been a 5-hour exercise be a 30-minute exercise. I would have never learnt those skills and how to use those types of tools if we weren't doing this.
Cool. Okay, I've got one. I think I've grown to trust that what we are doing is good for the world and that even if other people don't agree with our opinions, then I know that we are. I know you don't know this yet, but I know that we are both good people.
Yeah. I'm still working on that part.
We
I
are-
know she is.
We are both good people and we have good intentions. And if that doesn't make everyone happy all of the time, then that's okay. And sitting with disappointing people and letting it go.
Yeah. Because if we just presented stories, that would be fine. The problem is that's not what my goal is. My goal is to use stories and things that happen. And it doesn't, like, the Min Min Lights didn't have like a deep social justice undercurrent to it. But sometimes I just like to put a fun one in there so you're not
We need
traumatized
that.
every week.
Don't stop doing that.
No, I won't stop doing that because I want to have fun too. But the big ones that we do are never done because I'm like, oh, this is so gory and I want to talk about all of this foul shit. It's done because there's lessons in those things. And I think we've probably all established that I'm opinionated. So I am basically wrapping up social justice issues inside of marketable content. Because if I said, this is 20 minutes with your reporter, Shannon Walters, people wouldn't listen. I'm not a 60 Minutes reporter. You don't care about what my opinions are. And that's okay. You don't need to. But if I can slide in a little thing about how I think the world could be better into some of this other stuff, then great. I think probably when we talk about growth, there might be some more of that next year because I'm feeling more comfortable about doing that and more comfortable about it's okay if I upset someone or no, not upset. I never, ever want to upset someone. But it's okay if people disagree with me and don't understand my motivation because the right people will. And that's the community we're building around this podcast. As we bring all of this mess that we've just presented you with to a close, I really, while we're talking about gratitude, just want to say thank you to all of you, our listeners, for joining us each fortnight and walking alongside us through the highs and the lows and everything in between. Your messages and your encouragement and your willingness to just drop in and lean into these stories with us have been at the heart of why we do it. There's no desire here for us to be famous or to make $1 million. We do this because we actually have fun. Like, this is one of the best parts of my week.
I might not have made it sound like that, but I do have fun.
I know that you have fun. I get to be here with you. So I have no doubt about that. And I really like that we've just painted you as the reluctant co-host. Like, it's, you know, we've got our own little characters that we play, and that's okay because you have to protect yourself a little bit when you put yourself out into the world. So that's really natural.
Good cop, bad cop.
Yeah. And I'm really comfortable with that. But it's all of those comments and the shares and the encouragement that you guys give to us that reminds me why we do this. And it's not just like, you know, I had a set of goals in the beginning, but it's that feedback that we get when people say, I love this story, or you did this, or this changed my view on something. That is the reason, like, that's the guts at why we turn up here. And talking about behind the scenes stuff, like, it's not an easy job. There is hours of editing that goes into this on Megan's behalf. There is hours of research that goes in on my behalf, and we just get to come together and make these recordings and have a whole ton of fun while we do it. But yeah, going back to what I said before, it is those messages and that encouragement that makes it really meaningful to kind of build a community that listens with us and reacts with us and reflects and cares about the same stuff we do. And I think that's the goal, is that when you're building a community, they're passionate about the same things you are. And we definitely, even though some of our comment threads don't reflect it, we definitely, the majority of the time, have this really great community, which I really, really love. So from us to you guys, we hope this season that's coming brings you a little light, a little rest, because I'm assuming that you are all really, really tired, and a lot of warmth. Merry Christmas, safe holidays, and all the very best for the year ahead. Thank you for being here with us, for the conversations and the curiosity and the care. We couldn't do it without you guys, and we can't wait to share more stories, more journeys, and more moments with you in next year's chapter of If These Trees Could Talk.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of If These Trees Could Talk. If you would like to access more about the places or information included in today's topic, please visit our website, ifthesetreescouldtalk.com.au. If you would like to follow us on our adventures, check us out on Facebook or Insta. Our creative writer is Shannon Walters, and our podcast is produced at Bellevue Studio in the Hunter Valley with audio production by Megan Anderson. We love to hear your feedback, so please rate and review, and if you would like to hear more, please subscribe. We look forward to you joining us for our next adventure.